Hi, so Alin here for real this time. You know this by my manly voice. This is just a quick and dirty video going through a few comics I really enjoyed this year. Not a best of or anything, just stuff that left a mark in one way or another. Love. There have been a lot of comic books about mental health lately, both in print and online, but many of them come off as a sort of cross between an attempt to explain the disease to those around and self-care via personifying and describing the disease. Some are better than others, but Jesse Recluse isn't like one of them. It isn't cute, it isn't charming, it isn't demanding empathy. It's the portrait of a man going insane in a world that doesn't really care about him. It's about all the bad decisions he makes or is forced into. It's rough and ugly and beautiful in its own way. I'm not sure how many of you would even consider this comics, but seeing Recluse pages is like looking at a world that, between Sienkiewicz's manic, scratchy drawings and McCloud's sterile clarity, chose the former. The use of color and texture in the drawing is so expressive, so conducive to setting the mood, to expressing what Jesse felt. It shows that some stories do need noise, do need clutter, and that both beauty and knowledge can be found in them. Transformers vs. G.I. Joe. Seeing Tom Scioli evolve from an enthusiastic Kirby emulator to reach a synthesis of American genre comics was and remains quite a journey. I just never thought I'd seen his masterwork in a Transformers and G.I. Joe comic. Then again, almost any comic Scioli makes is his new masterwork. Here he's taking Kirby and Steranko and Hama and Miller and even Sienkiewicz, melding them into his own aesthetic, and if he and James Barber were just doing a normal Hasbro story with that art, it might have been enough. But story-wise, they're doing something along the same lines as Bulletproof Coffin. Is this look and criticism even at war and violence and trauma using this silly and exaggerated language of cartoons, while at the same time managing to wrap around itself to portray the fundamental unhealthiness of consuming violent cartoons and comics. And it does it with love for the medium. It's mental. 5,000 kilometers per second. I never can stand the enhanced and exhausting drama of love stories. And it seems that Manuel Fior can't either. 5,000 kilometers per second starts as your average teen romance story. New girl moves next door, a boy and his friend both like her, one of them is shy, the other pretends to be more knowledgeable than he is, and so on and so on. Then it jumps in time a few years, skipping all the infatuation and heartbreak. Then it skips forward again, and again. We see these people change and develop, we see their relationship portrayed through its absence. And it works so well because we only see vertical slices through Piero and Lucia's lives. It's short and punchy, and Fior controls very well every bit of information we have about these characters. So it wouldn't succeed at all without the art, which in small amounts of space conveys so much. While not trained as a fine artist, Fior has a painterly knack at capturing people's lives in a portrait, at representing a city in a landscape and bringing not only information, but also feeling. Giant Days. As conventional genre comics go, at the moment, Giant Days is unsurpassed in the areas that this kind of entertainment should be good for. Or at least I think it should be good for. A few years ago, back with Marvel Now, Matt Fraction and Kieran Gillen were all about done-in-one issues as a way of earning back readers' trust in genre comics, but the results were unconvincing in this regard. John Allison and Max Sarin come to the rescue, because with this they managed to tell episodic stories in such an effortless way that it's mind-boggling. They have this almost Buffy-like formula and they make it work. Each issue is an episode, each issue pushes some characters forward, and also each issue ends with a cliffhanger. It sets goals for itself that in more mainstream titles could be drudgery for the authors and boring for the readers. But here they form a narrative structure on which themes and social commentary can be organically grown. And it's so funny. It's the only comic that month in and month out I read. I feel good about reading, I feel satisfied by the time I spent with it and ready to go on with my life, but at the same time I can hardly wait for the next issue. It's like this really healthy snack for my mind-brain thing. Prophet Earthwar. What surprised me the most about Earthwar was that it managed to bring a sense of closure to the series, one that I haven't thought was really possible, but also one that I haven't really felt the need for. It wasn't a comic where the characters had the traditional arcs and the plot was so sprawling where and how to end it could be arbitrarily set. And the team went with it, acknowledging how many more stories could be told in the universe they created, making a nod to change and the weirdness it brings. Rather, the series seemed to cap off that period of time it spurred from, when Image Comics was finding its commercial footing again, but before settling into a formula after the success of Saga. It managed to feel a bit like a landmark. Some Other Animals Meet. The one good idea in Will Self's How the Dead Live was making Lily Bloom be haunted in the afterlife by all the fat she lost during her lifetime, in a pretty great insight into body issues and the pressures of societal norm. I'm not sure if Emily Carroll was influenced by Self, probably not, but I'm glad she rescued the concept in Some Other Animals Meet. Here, by day, Stacy sells beauty products she's allergic to, and by night she's haunted by a creamy, fatty version of herself. When she's out with her friends, she doesn't even think of herself as human, rather as that thing from her nightmares, but draped in human skin. I'm just a sucker for body horror stories, where the body becomes otherized, and its misshapen malformations are set as a proxy for the inner fears and needs and wants of the characters. And Carol delivers on the body side. The way she studies hands especially, the way they touch and press on the skin, and the way they reach and grab and hold. Carol's art is more realistic this time, in a Jaime Hernandez kind of way, and at times even more rendered, giving it some weight and nuance. The interplay between the long, scrolling chapters and the short, page-like ones creates this jarring and uneasy effect. It's not a cautionary fairy tale. It's not a smart and smartly done play on stereotypes and tropes. It's not even a sort of problem play about body issues, even if it touches on that. It's a dark and striking story about giving in and compromises, settling in and getting used to the darkness and the pain. It offers no easy lessons. I know that there are many comics I didn't manage to get to this year, and probably some I've unjustly forgotten about, and I'd welcome your recommendations.